So I'm really thrilled, and I can't believe we're actually chatting, but I've got with me Mr. Michael Bland. Thank you for doing this, Michael. This is really amazing of you.
Thanks for having me, Matthew. I appreciate it.
It's a thrill to be here talking with you.
Is it Matty or is it Matty?
Matty is fine.
Okay, Matty. All right.
We can live with that. That's good. Thank you. So I guess the first place to start is where did it all begin for you?
Well, I'm a native of Minneapolis, Minnesota. So, meeting Prince was likely, or not likely, just not impossible, I suppose.
Yeah.
I was 17 years old playing with a house band downtown Minneapolis called Dr. Mambo's Combo. They're pretty legendary in the city. I mean, the gig's gone for 33 years now, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're talking about like 1987. I'm playing in this band when I'm 17. A couple years into it, I think Prince had just finished the Love Sexy tour, and he was back in town. And rumor had it that he had broken up his band and that he was going to start over. So I mean, far be it from me to see myself involved in the equation at all. Why? Why would I think that that was something I could do? But he ended up coming through the club and sitting in with the band, and we had a pretty good rapport for a little while. There was a courtship before he actually asked me to join.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that's really it. I mean, I was 19. I joined the band, and it just kind of it gave me an out I quit college immediately, so I got out as quick as I could.
How did that feel when Prince said, "I want you in the band"? Because I mean, he's got the most impeccable taste in drummers you could ever.
Yeah,
you look who played for him.
Yeah, I'm like, who's gonna fill Sheila E.'s pumps? It turned out to be me.
Incredible.
But it's strangely, I always had an appreciation for his work, but I was not really like a full-on fan. I had never seen him perform live. I wasn't really like in some sort of like excited headspace. I was really kind of just curious, like, okay, well, and I remember asking him all sorts of really mundane questions. In retrospect, he was so nice to me because he could have, listen, I'm Prince. Don't ask me about what time this and that goes on. He could have big leagued me, but he realized I grew up in a cornfield. I don't know nothing and nobody. So he really, made me feel welcome right away.
Amazing.
And we spent a lot of time together, just him and me early on in the studio. A lot of early tracks, it was just him and I. And he brought his dad in one day, and I got to meet his dad and everything. Like, he was really invited me in when he was certain that I could, provide something that he could use.
Yeah.
He really closed the circle and said, "You're in."
That's incredible. Because he's a great drummer in his own right, isn't he?
Oh yeah. I dug his drumming. Yeah, he liked David Garibaldi quite a bit. A lot of his, the permutations and the backward sticking and stuff. He was really limber and agile with that sort of thing.
So would you get, do you get a free rein, if you like, his songs, or would he give you kind of a clue as to what he was after, or would you just, do your own thing?
Sometimes he had a very sort of experimental idea with songs like Sexy MF or Love to the Nines. Some of those beats, it's like, he's like, I'm thinking this sort of a rhythm. And I kind of put my hands down and start trying things. Nope, try moving here, do this instead. Okay, there it is. Great, we got that. Okay, and then off to the races. And sometimes it just would be, we're just jamming. And okay, this is hot. Okay, let's wait. Hold on. Everybody, wait a minute. And they tell the engineer to start rolling. So, and whatever moved him, I tried to give it to him.
Incredible. Because you were with him a long time. Was it 7 years or something? That's quite a long time.
Not as long as some, but from 1989 through 1996, it was pretty steady. And in the 2000s. Sonny Thompson, the bass player, and I started going back out there and recording with him from time to time. So we played on like some of the later records, like Lotus Flower, and Planet Earth and 3121. The title track was just, the engineer was trying to get tones on the bass and the drums. And we were just in there funking to ourselves, like, man, this is hot, man, this is hot. And Prince high-stepped his way into the studio and grabbed his Stratocaster, like, what's this? What key are we in? I like this. Hold on, wait. And he told the engineer to roll. And there it was. It's like, well, we gave him another one.
Oh, that's just, these are great. I mean, because they always say, don't they, tape everything in the studio. Yeah. Tape's always running. And that's a prime example, isn't it? That's amazing. So was Prince, would you say, a good boss?
I'd say he was a fair boss. And I'd say that he was a clear communicator. I mean, you didn't ever get the idea that that he was not in control.
Oh, that's.
I don't know what else to say on that. I mean, anybody who's great is as tough on themselves as they are on everybody around them. So
absolutely. I mean,
it's the type of thing where either you don't like being told what to do, or you understand that all great leaders also know how to follow instruction.
Yes. Yeah.
That's the thing, is that he never asked me to do anything he wasn't doing himself. 12 hours of rehearsal, he's there, I'm there. 2.5-hour gig at Wembley Arena, and then play at the the Hammersmith Palais. No problem. Another 3 hours on stage. I mean, it's just that's the thing, is you need the stamina to keep up with him, because he didn't know the word quit or no.
I mean, I'm lucky enough to have seen you. Well, it was during the artist formerly known sort of era, and I saw you. Do you remember the GMEX in Manchester? The GMEX Centre. It used to be a railway station. Horrible acoustic in there, really horrible acoustic.
Was it an outdoor venue, or did it have walls?
It was an indoor venue, and I saw you in there, and you talk about high energy. It's just incredible, because there was no support, and the curtain dropped, and you went for two.
And we would, right? Yes,
full on.
Yeah. We didn't. I mean, he had the work ethic of like James Brown or somebody back in the day. He didn't care who was going on first, and if it was us, then same difference. I mean, that's why the gig we did at the BBC was so legendary. It was like 8 o'clock in the morning, and we come out like gangbusters. I mean, at some point, you snap into this gear and the train starts going, and that's kind of what it was like. We didn't do anything lightly or in a subtle sort of kind of way. It was always kind of kill.
and it must have been an incredibly tiring gig for you, because you hit them, don't you? You give it some, definitely.
I had to keep the aggression up, and but I was a young man at the time. I had it. I could. No, nobody move. We get to a groove and just, and that means don't move. I'm just, and it could go 20 minutes. It could go 40 minutes. Prince went as long as it felt good. He was going to do it.
So I'm assuming then there was no. Everything was live. There was no clicks. It was just see where it goes.
But I did have. I was working with I had a Studio 5, a Roland sampler, and some pads, and I had a looper pedal, like an early, somebody converted like a Boss power pedal into like a kill switch for my electronic loops and stuff. Okay. But since we weren't on a sequencer, there were no clicks. There was, Prince wanted to be able to go wherever he wanted at any given moment. So I had to have the tempos kind of in my bloodstream, in my brain, and adjust slightly if I happened to be off, But I was working with samples. Morris Hayes was triggering background samples and effects, and Barbarella was doing like horn samples and strings along with playing keyboards. So I had to be accurate, and if I heard any of them kind of jump the gun, or I'd have to kind of, adjust the time a little bit. So Prince had no idea. He didn't know why we were so tight until I was gone. And then he saw that no other drummers could really work that way, you know, because it's really hard. It's something you have to practice to be good at. So they had to abandon their whole way of doing things after we were fired and start up kind of fresh. So
I remember the experience was, it wasn't like any other gig I've been to before. And I remember being, but I just remember the feel you had, and you hit them really hard. And I remember you had quite for the time, quite a small kit, a basic kit. I think it looked like a 5-piece standard. Yeah. Were you playing Pearl back in the day?
No,
have I got that one?
Let's see what actually happened. On my first tour, I was playing Yamaha.
Mm-hmm.
And I was trying to get an endorsement with Yamaha, and the guy was kind of giving me the runaround. And I was like, Sheila E. was just here playing Yamaha. How come I can't? You know, well, her family has this long association with the company, and she doesn't have to have the logo on her kick drums. And I'm like, okay, well, all right, fine. So when it came time to like freshen everything up, I was like, okay, well, forget it. I'm gonna play Sonar now.
Right.
So I had for the last few years, I played a gold-plated Sonar kit that we had custom plated.
Yeah.
And it was a 5-piece, and they were great. I love Sonar's drums.
Great drums, amazing drums.
But I mean, I should say, Yamaha did eventually, in like '97. I was thinking about signing with Tama. Somebody had hooked me up to talk to Joe Hibbs. And I had a friend who said, I'm working on getting Yamaha. I was like, well, fat chance. See what can happen, but I bet it's not going to happen. And they came through at the last minute. Hagi, who is, who everybody knows. Hagi.
Yes.
Hagi was the one who saw me playing with Prince. And he must have heard the story that I had started with Yamaha and I had moved off. And as soon as I was free, like out of the band, and trying to figure things out, Hagi called, and he sent this guy named John Whitman. I'll never forget the day. And they called me. I was in LA at a number that I don't even know how they found me, but they were like, Hagi says to give you a full endorsement. I'm ready to take the order for your first kit right now. And that was it. And they've been so good to me over the years. I mean, I'm still in with Yamaha. The company has changed a bit. Some of the people who were there when I got in, Joe Testa, Jordan Barth, those people have moved to other sectors of the drumming world. Joe's over at Vic Firth now, but we're still close and tight. And I'm actually endorsed by Vic Firth also. Brilliant. As well as Bilgen and Remo. So I got no complaints. I got what I needed when I needed it. And I'm happy with the way things worked out.
Well, that's great. Now, look, I'm going to change things slightly, and I'm going to give you some information. I've got 2 favorite drum fills in the world. The first one is nothing to do with you, but it's the fill that Mel Gaynor does in the Simple Minds song. Don't you forget? Oh, yeah. That. You know, that very rudimental fill at the end.
Yeah, he shook up the world with that. All my friends were trying to learn it, and that was it back in the day. Yeah, that's
one. My other all-time favorite fill. I think you probably know where I'm going with this one.
Yeah, I mean it's the eternal question. How did you come up with that fill in Diamonds and Pearls?
Took the words right out of my mouth.
Actually, I grew up playing in church quite a bit, and there was this drummer who played with this visiting choir one Sunday. I don't remember where they were from or what the guy's name was. I was up in the cheap seats in the church up in the balcony. And this dude was doing this thing, the very sort of like this, like a flamma something. It's like a both left right, like a black. And I had figured it out at home on my own kit, and it was just something I did from time to time. And the day we recorded Diamonds and Pearls, there wasn't supposed to be, well, at least at the point during the first take, I left it open because there wasn't supposed to be anything going on in there. And Prince said, let's do it. Let's do another take. This time, we'll take a beat out of this section, and in that hole, put something in there. something you want people to remember. And I went, okay. So the entire take, I'm trying to figure out what am I going to put in this space when it comes up. And I just kind of extended the fill and figured it out, and it was there. It was out there, and out of me and onto the tape, and the rest is just. I mean, that dude is probably mad somewhere now. That was my idea. That was one of my concepts. But who knows?
What
he
a
might
great,
be dead.
what a great fill! Did Prince Did Prince instantly sort of go, "That's the one"?
Yeah, I mean, he was just like, okay, great, and we left after that take. It was 2 takes with a slight edit and the fill. It just went through my head like, yes,
Yeah.
okay, this is kind of like some because it's kind of like art rocky. It's kind of fusion, like Genesis or something.
Yeah.
Like I need something majestic. I need something heavy to play here. And that was it.
But the fact that you've taken a beat out of the bar before, it almost gives the impression it starts on beat 4 rather than beat 1. If you're listening to it, for my ears anyway, I'm thinking, oh, because it's a 3/4, then I'm sorry to get technical, but it just sounds.
It's deceptively simple actually. It seems more complicated than it is. But if you're thinking about like an advancing triplet, I don't really have this sort of nomenclature at my disposal. I took lessons, but all the technical terms for things, that's gone for me. But it's kind of like both left, right, kick drum, like a blicka-da-um.
Yeah.
But if you just keep moving, it becomes this rhythmic displacement where it's the same figure, but it's ending at different spots.
It just works perfectly.
It was a fortunate moment in my life and career.
It's every time I hear it, I think, oh, this is the bit I'm waiting for. It just fits. It's perfect. It's perfect. Thank you for that.
Well, thank you, Maddie. I appreciate it.
Now then, look, I remember reading Rhythm Magazine, which is our drum magazine here in the UK, when I was, younger. And I'm reading an interview with you, and I hope I haven't got this wrong, but I remember reading the interview with you, and in the interview it came up that you were possibly going to be linked with Miles Davis. And is there any truth in that? I mean, have I got it right, first of all? Have I remembered it correctly?
I think that it may have been a possibility. It wasn't like I got a formal offer or anything. I just met him, and he had a lot of questions about like my sound, and he had said to a good friend of mine named Foley McCreary, who played in his band. He played piccolo bass, lead bass. He said to Foley was watching a videotape of the Nude tour on Miles's tour bus, and Miles happened to walk back. And Foley said, he said, man, the chief said, who's that drummer? I said, oh, that's Michael Bland. He said, he can play more than he's playing. Like he recognized a restraint in what I was doing, but he recognized my potential also. And so when they played in Minneapolis, I played in the band that opened for him. So I was already in the venue. And once at the end of the night, I got a chance to talk to him. As much as I could talk, Miles Davis, scared the crap out of me, but it certainly seemed like he was inquiring about certain things. And his plan was he was going to be at Paisley Park the next day. He had he needed to talk to Prince about something. And he said, I'm going to be at Paisley Park tomorrow. What are you doing? I said, I'm going to be at Paisley Park tomorrow. But his flight ended up getting switched to an earlier time, and they left. And I mean, it was only a few months after that he passed away.
Who knows?
So it was close. I mean, I felt like it was close. It could have been miles away, but just the fact that I got to speak to him, the fact that that my playing moved him at all is still a compliment of the highest order. But
yeah, I mean, look at the drummers that have gone before you. Well, that might have gone before you.
Yeah, and I met Tony Williams came out of nowhere at my house gig downtown in Minneapolis, and it scared the crap out of me too.
Oh,
Hey, brother, you sound real great. It's Tony Williams. Geeking out on the inside and trying to be cool on the outside. A lot of drummers did that to me. Steve Jordan did that. He came out, and Dennis Chambers. You know, I had to play. Billy Cobham came out one time, but he left before I got a chance to talk to him. I've had to just do my normal thing in front of so many of my idols. It's like at this point I guess I'm pretty fearless now, but you know, this is in my 20s. I'm meeting these dudes, and it was hard. It was difficult to keep my cool. Those are all the guys I grew up listening to. You know,
that's incredible. I can't imagine. Hey, you've got the talent to do it though, and pull it off, haven't you? You know, it's.
I believe I was in the right place at the right time, Maddie, and I you know, I also. You know, I took music very serious from the time that I started. I mean, I started taking lessons when I was 9.
Right.
And the instructor, his name was Floyd Thompson, and he told my dad before the first lesson, said, if he doesn't have it, I'm not taking it. Like, this guy had enough students. He didn't need somebody else to have to, you know, nurse and go slow with. Like, he was really looking for a student that he could, you know, he could hang a shingle out on, you know? So it turned out to be me in a lot of ways, you know.
Did you ever go down the marching band route? And I know we don't really have that thing in the UK, but I know it's big over in the States. So did you ever get involved in that?
A little bit in high school, but you know, I was a young dude, so they made me carry the kick drum, and you know, we marched for blocks, and I was a big dude in high school too, so. You know, I was like, man, forget this. So it was a short-lived romance with the marching band.
So when the Prince thing, you know, you went your separate ways. What happened then musically for you? I know Soul Asylum you've been involved with for some time now.
Yeah, for the last 15 years. But there was a lot of erroneous things in between. Right after Prince, I went out to Los Angeles and started doing some recording. I picked up a gig with a French artist named France Gall, and she was married to a very famous writer and artist named Michel Berger in France, and Sonny was also the bass player. Sonny was the bass player when I was playing with Prince. So Sonny and I were on that gig along with Herman Jackson, a keyboard player who was playing with Stevie Wonder at the time, and a gentleman named David Sancious.
Yes.
And David Sancious, yeah, everybody knows David because David played with Sting and Peter Gabriel and killed it all. Not only that, he had some really incredible fusion records in the 70s that I wasn't aware of, but a dear friend of mine, I mentioned his name. He's like, oh, the guy that made True Stories, that David Sancious? I was like, what's True Stories? Oh, man. And he gave me a cassette of this record, and it changed my life. So it was all of us on this really successful tour in France. We went twice with her, and she was just the nicest person you ever want to meet, and she treated us like pure gold. And after that, I got a call to work with an Italian artist. Her name is Georgia, and it was just supposed to be a one tour, Sonny and I together. A musical director who's kind of famous here in the States, his name is Ricky Minor. Ricky Minor and another drummer from Minneapolis, actually named Michael Baker. Great drummer. He played with Al Jarreau. He played with Bruce Hornsby in the Range. He played with a lot of people. Bobby Lyle. Those two guys normally toured with her, but they were also working with Whitney Houston at the time, and they got double booked. So Ricky called. He thought maybe I should get a bass player and a drummer who are familiar with each other, you know, who got a high enough profile so that, you know, that the money will be worth it, and management will know what they're getting, so on and so forth. You know, whatever rationale he had, he asked Sonny and I to do it. So we went over, and that ended up going on for actually quite some time. After that tour, she was very, very pleased with how things went, and they decided to to work with us more extensively. So Ricky and Michael went and did their thing, and Sonny and I started spending more time in Italy. We were recording with her and touring with her and doing TV shows and whatnot. And I became her musical director until about 2003.
Okay.
And I loved it. Italy, so incredible. I mean, I love the UK too, but Italy, man, I fell in love with that country. And I enjoyed my time there, but sometime after that last tour with her, I began to feel like I wanted to spend more time at home. I wanted to get back, to working in an environment where possibly I could build, real relationships with people that were not temporary, like being in a band for real. Like my running and gunning years were kind of over. In between, I had worked with Shaka Khan. I'd toured with Maxwell. We came over there and did something for MTV while I was with him. But also a somewhat known, the founder of a band called The Replacements from Minnesota. His name is Paul Westerberg. I did some work with him. I did a lot of different things in between. I did a lot of everything. And by 2003, I was just tired of being one of those dudes.
Yeah.
I had gone to auditions for Macy Gray and Pink and all these different artists, and it's just like that sort of life is for somebody, but it really wasn't for me. It was out of necessity that I was getting around so much. So when I resurfaced back in Minneapolis, Soul Asylum was just talking about doing a comeback record. They had been off for about 6 or 7 years. The band just took a hiatus, and they were starting to talk about going into the studio and making a new record. And they had gotten a deal with Sony, and so it was probably a 16-month process. And they kind of said, we're going to pay you this, we just need you to play drums on the record, and so on and so forth. And once we get the songs chosen, we'll start rehearsing them to go to the studio. And literally, like the first or second day, we're playing a song, and Dave Perner just stops the band. Hey, man. It's like, why don't you just join the effing band, man, like it was a challenge. And I thought to myself for literally like 5-10 seconds, and I went, all right, okay, man, let's do it. We've been inseparable ever since, really. I love him to death. I love him like a brother. He's good to me and everybody else, man. He's just a stellar human being. I think he's one of the last of the great American songwriters. And we're just doing our thing. We actually released a new record in April of this year called Hurry Up.
Ah, right. So during lockdown, it was, were you locked down then in Minneapolis?
Well, no, we were, the record, yeah, we were in lockdown when the record came out, but we had started touring on February 11th. We had dropped a few singles and were ready to hit the road. So the tour was great, and went until about the 14th of March or so. Mm. And after, like the last date was in Los Angeles, and it was a really great show. And that was when we started hearing about like South by Southwest was being shut down. Some of our gigs for the coming week had been canceled, and it was like, whoa. And living on a bus, you get into your own sort of like headspace. You don't really know what's going on in the world when you're traveling from state to state. Yeah. On a Prevost. And also our satellite was busted. So I hadn't been watching television. I didn't know how seriously to take this COVID thing. And the bus pretty much turned around. We got to San Diego and found out that the date at the Belly Up Tavern was canceled for now. Yeah. So there was nothing else for us to do but go home. So the bus turned around, and over the weekend drove back to Minneapolis. I get off the bus, I get in the family van, and my wife tells me, well, you're about to be under quarantine for 12 days. And she starts getting me up to speed on what has happened. and how, this thing is spreading and what it's done to Italy, and and how New York is catching it bad now. And it was somebody told me yesterday, I did an interview with a guy, he said, you must have felt like Omega Man, like the Charlton Heston movie, where it's like post-nuclear fallout and there's nobody there. Like, we got on the freeway and there were no cars on the freeway. It was just a very odd, strange day all the way around. It was just, huh? Like, what did I just get dropped into? And I pretty much been in the house since then. So
you've been like living in a bubble on the tour bus, really, I guess.
Yeah, in all ways, because you really stick to your own. You don't really socialize that much with anybody else. And if you're all sharing the same experience, nobody can give you any context beyond that, So I was lost. I didn't know what had happened. Like, well, what does this mean? What's going to happen? And there's still, and every day the news was changing about like how you could get it. The mask helps. The mask doesn't help. So on and so forth. And it's just, it's been an ugly thing, man.
Terrible.
And, on top of that, I mean, in late May, Memorial Day weekend, George Floyd was killed in Minneapolis in the middle of the street.
Of course, Minneapolis.
Yeah. So here it's been just like one bubbling boil after another,
It's a year.
And so you have the people going out to protest, and then it's not like the virus is now not around. What are you doing? So it's been a whole convoluted mess. But there have been positive things about it also. I mean, I heard that the ozone layer was kind of fixing itself.
Yes.
That the ways in which we pollute the planet have been reversing a little bit. Just because we can't just do what we like.
Yes.
And so, I mean, and as far as the George Floyd's death and everything connected with that, I mean, I hate to say it, but sometimes you got to burn it all down. You know what I mean? I mean, it's first off, a lot of people were critical of the violence that went along with the looting, but it's like, you know what? You can't tell a people how to protest their own genocide. I mean, if you're going to willy-nilly kill black people in the street like that, and it's 2020,
no.
I mean, you can't expect people to just sit there and just not do anything, and a lot of the damage that they did in their own neighborhood, those were the houses and structures that they don't own anyway. I mean, I didn't mean to necessarily take it off in this direction, man, but I just, hey,
it's important.
I know that they've been protesting in England too.
Yeah.
So and it's just the time has come when human rights shouldn't be, on a case-by-case basis.
No.
Every person alive should have, equal treatment and protection under the law.
Yes.
So it's not even a black thing at this point, because they've messed with a lot of different people. I've seen them mess up some white people during this time. The bottom line is that we just have to vibrate higher on this issue. You shouldn't want for anybody what you don't want for yourself. I mean, I think it should be that simple.
Yeah.
And there's still but it's real easy to hate and to stay in that place, and to not want the world to change. And, I want to stick to the tropes and the relics and the things from yesteryear. And it's like, you know what? If you're over 40, it ain't about you no more. It's about who has to come up and clean this mess up after us.
Yes.
So let the young people lead. They're working together. We had people of all races, colors, and creeds marching.
Yes.
Everybody is sick of it. It shouldn't happen to anyone. So I guess that's my little soapbox moment. We can
100% agree with you. 100%.
Yeah, I figured, Matty. You seem like a good guy. You don't want,
No.
You don't want that type of thing happening. Nobody does.
Nobody does. No, absolutely agree. 100%.
Yeah. So I mean, let's talk about police reform and whatnot. I mean, I shudder it's unfortunate that it had to come to this for people to actually discuss it.
Yeah.
But you know, the Minneapolis Police Department they've had problems for many years, you know, and the guy who killed George Floyd, he had 18 violations on his record. Like, what is he still doing policing if he's had 18 violations of conduct? So, you know, it's people are waking up. People's eyes are getting open, and we're trying to make we only got one planet. Try to make it good for everybody, you know?
I like that.
All right, I'm done.
Hey, look, Michael, before you go, I want to ask you about one more thing, if that's okay. And it's been all over Facebook. It's from 2017 when you performed with Vulfpeck.
Oh boy.
Oh, that snare sound, that fat. Oh, that must have been fun to do, right?
That was a lot of fun. I didn't really know those guys. I knew some people who were associated with them. And that's how it happened. Actually, Corey Wong, who's been to England and performed,
Yes.
Corey was the conduit. Vulfpeck, I think they'd already worked with what's his name? It was James Gadsden.
Yes.
They'd already done one with James Gadsden, and many other, you know, legendary musicians. And I was honored to be asked, and you know, we worked it out that day in the studio, and what you see on camera is what was happening at that moment. There were no overdubs. It's just, that's what it was. You know, we took it probably, you know, we took it a few times because the guy with the camera had to figure out where to be for what. And, you know, and they were getting the tones and everything. And so it just worked. I didn't really believe in the phenomenon of, you know, virality or whatever you call it. You know, I have my own archaic moments where I'm like, oh, what's this they're doing now? Oh, this looks stupid. You know, but the results don't lie. I mean, I know it went over 1 million. It went over a million hits, and that became my new calling card. You know, for the last couple of years. And so, you're the guy under the Vulfpeck. You know, there's somebody who did like a tutorial on it online, and like a student group. I'm like, wow, this is it really refreshed my career in ways I hadn't thought possible.
But isn't that a masterclass in how to play for the song? What you did, you know, it's just
that's for somebody else to determine. I just I just try to do what the music says. It sounds simple enough, but really, it's always about listening more for me than anything else. I'm trying to see where the conversation's going, you know, before I jump in as much as I can. Sometimes I have to start it, you know. But I learned from Prince. When I first started with him, I was he'd start playing, and I'd always be a little apprehensive to try something new, and he'd always say, "Just put your hands down. You just pick a place to just start. You'll find the city, and then you'll find the street, but you have to put your hands down." So he made me a bit more confident about doing it. But I'm, you know, my whatever that is in me that says you have to be sure of what you're doing all the time. It gives me I've managed to mix the certitude with the sense of adventure. I don't know how, but it's
working.
Thanks. It's not easy, but I'm glad it's working.
It's that sense of space in there. It's just, you've got all the time in the world, you know, for the fills. It's just,
yeah.
That's
well, you know, it's weird because I never had a problem playing slow. And I know a lot of drummers, they get impatient and they, you know, but I really, a lot of the sessions I started doing early in my career, they were like power ballads and like, you know, just like, like just spacious and slow and, you know, just let every note speak for itself, really. And so I never had a problem with that, really. But I'd have drummers sitting in at the club, and they always want to play something fast. I'm like, oh, and then I'd call a ballad just to make them have to play slow. Like, you got to sit on those notes. You have to give them their proper value. fast or slow.
Yes,
You
absolutely.
got to count.
Mm, yeah.
Yeah.
So you
Oh, all right. I mean, as you well know, I mean, Britain has a history of really great drummers, and I grew up on album rock, so I grew up listening, of course, you know, John Bonham, who's everybody knows. Non-drummers know about John Bonham,
yes.
you know, and some of the other cats that I don't think got their their due, like Simon Kirk from Bad Company.
Yep.
Incredible drummer, man. I grew up listening. He had, you know, it's a rock and roll pocket thing that I learned from listening to a lot of Bad Company records. Who else? I mean, Mitch Mitchell is a given, you know. I didn't prefer the busier guys like Mitch or like Keith Moon, but I understood what was happening there.
Yeah.
But I mean, Phil Collins, incredible drummer, man. Are you kidding me? Who else? So many English cats. I'll say something. I hope Charlie Watts, if Charlie Watts happens to be watching this.
Hi, Charlie.
On Cream by Prince. It's that we were playing it, and Prince was like, "No, play it more." He said, "Play it more like Charlie Watts when he was good." I'm like, okay, you know, for me that meant, you know, he was trying to get to what's the record? Sticky Fingers, like Exile. Like I thought that's really when I thought Charlie was really hot. I think had they stayed away from trying to do all that, trying to cross over into disco and whatnot, Charlie was playing great, man. But I think that that just wasn't his thing later on, you know. But you know, play with like when Charlie was good. Play it like Charlie Watts when he was good. Okay.
But he was good. Dear me, he's been quite successful in his own right, hasn't he, to be fair.
Oh, man, Charlie's the king. He's still doing it. What can you say about Charlie Watts?
So have you always enjoyed touring in the UK?
You know, yes. I've never had a time that I didn't enjoy the UK. All over. Sheffield, Manchester, Birmingham, everywhere. Not just London. You know, I know the people are quite polite, you know, and if I met anybody who hated my guts, I wouldn't have known it, you know, unless maybe in Ireland somebody might have said, you know, they might have got unruly with me, but generally, no, man. I've always loved going to England. We always had a great reception. The first night I played at Wembley Arena in 1990. Everybody, Paul McCartney was there, George Michael, Kate Bush. I think Peter Gabriel came to like the second night. Like it was just everybody came out, and Mick Jagger came at some point. We did a run of shows, like 18 shows. I think Dire Straits had sold out like 11 straight shows at Wembley Arena, and Prince said, book 17 shows. And the promoter was like, you got to be crazy. Prince said, I'll fill it every night. And darn if he didn't. And but that was an incredible run. But every night, another superstar, a pack of superstars was at the show. It was incredible. Mick Jagger barged his way into Prince's dressing room. Prince and I were talking about something to do with the show. And Mick just, hello, just pushed his way in. And Prince put his curling iron down and jumped up, and, you know, they hugged. Hey, man, how you doing? And Prince introduced me to Mick, and he was real cool. And after the show, we had an after show at the Hammersmith Palais. And I'm talking to these two girls, and Mick walks by with his little crew. Wicked show, Michael. Well, yeah, mate. And you know, I'm like, oh man, Mick just did me a solid. Mick just hooked me up, man.
Oh,
they're like, you know Mick Jagger? Well, you just met him. Yeah. So thank you, Mick.
It's a different world, isn't it? It really is.
Yeah. Where it's just who you know, and you know, a couple of words can make you king of the evening. My goodness.
it just shows the respect that Prince had from other, you know, his fellow contemporaries, and
Right.
you know, nobody has a bad word or had a bad word to say about him, you know, and
Well, not musically anyway. Not that he
no,
was,
no.
but you know, he was a kind of a shy person, and I think a lot of the time, I mean, sometimes he was just being downright rude, but some of the time even talking to the band, or you know, like sometimes he wouldn't make eye contact. He's kind of an introvert, kind of a shy person, and I think sometimes, you know, that got misinterpreted for being, you know, him being flighty, or but other times maybe he was just being a, you know, wanker.
And I tell you what, that man could swear. Oh,
Oh boy, could he ever?
whoa, that's one thing. It was the first thing I noticed. It was the first word. And I was like, wow, look at this. All the little kids there. And it's like,
Oh man. Well, I'll tell you a short story, man, because it's funny you should bring that up. Because I you know, I'm a God-fearing man. I'm a Christian. I love Jesus. Jesus Christ is my Lord and Savior. So I had a lot of equivocation and, you know, moments during my tenure with Prince where it was like, wow, this is a little dark for me, you know. And you know, certainly friends and you know, extended family, you know, were what's the word I'm looking for? Not skeptical, but judgmental about, you know, my involvement with that. And my myself all the time, I can always leave. I can, if this gets too heavy for me, I can always go, because you know, I mean, it was difficult work, and not every day was, you know, wine and roses, you know. And so, you know, any rational person will think from time to time, like, yeah, maybe I've had enough of this, you know. But all in all, the convenience of the gig, you know, being in my hometown, I didn't have to move to LA to get it going, you know, or you know, I mean, just what it meant to be working with one of the greatest artists of all time. I let all that, you know, kind of control my decisions, you know. And I remember in '95, we went on tour to support the Gold Experience record.
yeah.
And it was never meant to come out, but we were on tour to support it for some reason. And and I remember we got to a song called P Control.
Yes, I know the song.
Yeah, yes, you know it, don't you?
You open with it. Did you open with that?
No, I don't think so.
No?
I think it's just a point in the show where like everything goes kind of dark and real kind of subversive. And I remember looking up, and in the front row, I saw these parents with their little kids, and these girls who were maybe like 13, 14, you know. And I remember like my inner voice was like, "What am I doing? What am I doing here? Like, is this what I want to be remembered for?" You know, like it just struck me. It was just a dark moment, and from that point, I couldn't really shake it. I couldn't get it out of my head. You know, and it was it was a dark time in general because he was fighting with Warner Brothers, and you know, so he was always a little disgruntled, you know, and kind of focused on that.
Yeah.
And so it was a real angry time for him, and you know, it was our job. We were there for it.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and but that was really a turning point in my consciousness. It was like, you know, I'm here and I'm complicit, and I'm not all right with that. And I didn't really tell anybody else in the band where my head was at, but it was just like towards the time, I guess that would have been late '95 into '96. We got fired in March of '96, and I remember like in January or February, I start to get these headaches from time to time, and they didn't go away, but like during that last like couple of weeks before we got fired, the headaches were coming more often, and I knew it was almost like my spirit was rejecting the experience. It was a real like there was something toxic in my body, you know. Like I don't know that I was lying to myself the whole time, but I think I was not realistic about the responsibility I had in the equation. you know. And I don't mean to really take it. I mean, we're just talking, man. I don't know what you're thinking about me now at this point. And I'm not saying that I regret my experience,
No, of
but I
course.
do know what it cost me, you know. And and I feel like my soul and spirit are in the right place now. And they probably were the whole time. But um, music is powerful. Music is powerful, and I've learned to be more. I'm real careful about what I choose to do.
Yeah, yeah,
That's all. And other people can be perfectly reckless with it. That's I'm just speaking from my own experience that I need for things to make sense for me. I
yeah.
need to I need to make sure for whatever remaining time I have on this planet that whatever I touch has got positive energy all over it.
It must make you happy. You got to make yourself happy as well, haven't you? You know.
Well, yes, but that's what will make me happy.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm again, I don't mean to be this dude, but it's some time ago I realized that really, if I come from a place of love in all that I do, uh, um, then I'm putting God in it, you know.
Mm.
And I know the UK has its own issues with Christianity and so on and so forth, but I'm just speaking for me. Just the words God and love have become interchangeable for me. So if I'm putting love into something, I'm putting God into it,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and vice versa. And that's just kind of where I'm at with it now. That's why I'm so close to the people I'm working with now. Is that we're all fighting for the same thing. We're trying to be a bright light in a dim universe. you know.
Hey, look, Michael, if you had one piece of advice for a young up and coming drummer, because I know there'll be a few that'll be watching this,
Sure.
what would it be? You've been all over the world 100 times. What would it be? What would it be?
What would it be? I mean, I'd say that if you're gonna play music, it's great to enjoy, but you have to understand that if you're not goal oriented, you're going to stagnate. If you're not really working on forward progress, you're not working on your time and your chops and how to, less your chops, more your time actually.
Mm.
Your time, your pocket is going to feed you.
Yeah.
If you can play all the trickiest fills in the world, but if you're not landing on beat one, it's useless. It's pointless.
Mm.
And what I've found is that if I play for the music, if I play to support everything else that's going on, I can't go wrong.
Yeah.
It's simpler than you think.
Mm.
Just play time. Just find a beat that that works well with the bass player, but doesn't interfere with the cadence of the lead singer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just play support. Be happy in that.
That sounds like good advice to me.
Okay.
Michael Bland.
I said once before. I mean, somebody asked me, "Well, who was your main influence?" I'm like, "Listen, I listened to Clyde Stubblefield and I listened to Neil Peart. I listened to Billy Cobham. But the reality is, really for me, I got two references for rock drumming. And pretty much if Ringo or Stan Lynch from the Heartbreakers didn't play it, I don't need to play it if I'm playing rock music. You know what I mean? People try to bag on Ringo, man. Ringo's still bad. He still got that pocket, man. Every time Greg Bissonette comes through with the Ringo All-Star, he always texts me and says, "Hey, man, are you going to be able to make the show?" I was telling Ringo I was going to use, like, you told Ringo about me, man. Ringo Starr knows the fact that Ringo Starr has any idea who I am, to me, is like, music has been my everything. It can be your everything if you work hard at it. It's been my sustenance. It's been my financial security. It's been my spiritual security. It's been my social outlet. Music can be everything to you if you give yourself to it. Now, on the flip side, I prefer, if you're not going to take it seriously, just leave it alone.
Yeah, absolutely.
We don't need any more hobbyists out there.
No.
Like if you love it and you're going to play, then mean it. Then do it for put your whole self into it, or don't do it at all.
Yeah.
Really. You know, I don't, those weekend warriors, they drive me crazy. Like, really. If bet on yourself, bet on music, do the work, you know?
That's great advice. I like that.
All right.
Michael, thank you so much. You've gone way over the time that I said we
All right. Yeah.
I appreciate it so much. Thank you very much indeed. So you're going to make the drummers of the UK very happy watching this. So we don't see too much of you over there these days. So, you know.
Well, yeah.
I really appreciate it. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed myself, Maddie. Let's do this again in another 5 years.
I hope so. Thank you.